خلق الروح, the creation of the soul, the world of arwah. The soul is something created, like any other created thing, but knowledge of its true nature is something that belongs only to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He has kept the knowledge of that to Himself. In Surah Al-Isra, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they ask you about the soul. Say, the soul is something from the command of my Lord, and you are not given from the knowledge but a little. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the souls before He created the bodies. As the bodies were formed in their mother's womb, souls were entered into them, except for Adam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Adam alayhi salam with His own hands and then put the soul into him. And all the rest of the souls were brought out from the back of Adam alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Hijr, recall when your Lord said to the angels, I am going to create a human being from a ringing clay made of decayed mud. When I form him perfect and blow in him of my spirit, then you must fall down before him in prostration. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the soul, the ruh, as my ruh. But this title is used here for takreem, to give honor. This does not mean that man's soul is a part of Allah's soul. No, the term my ruh here means that which I have created, that I own, and is given honor. Just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the Baytullah as His house, or Naqatullah as in Allah's camel, these are titles out of honor, respect, takreem. So of the creation of the ruhs, of the arwahs, the ruh of Adam alayhi salam was the first one. And we are to be mindful that the body alone is not a human being. Rather, it is the ruh, the soul, that makes it human. Otherwise, the body is just a mayyit, a composition of blood, flesh and bones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered that when I complete Adam alayhi salam's form and put the ruh into it and he comes alive, then you, referring to the angels, you all prostrate to him, sajideen. Before being sent to the world, the souls are all kept in a certain place. The exact nature of the souls is something we do not know much about. This is information that is hidden from us, and hence it is related to the knowledge of the unseen. And no matter how much research and observation we do, we can never come to know of its full reality. Man's knowledge is limited, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Ayat al-Kursi in Surah Baqarah, verse 255, وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. And they encompass not a thing of His knowledge except for what He wills. There are many things about the body that we learn from the Quran and Sunnah, or by observation, exploration and research, but not the soul. With regards to the soul, we rely completely on the divine revelation. And so in order to know about the soul, we have to look at what the Quran and the Sunnah tell us regarding the reality and nature of the soul. We come to know from hadith that the souls of the children of Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam, and hence man in general, is blown into the developing fetus in the mother's womb, for which an angel is appointed to blow the soul into the body when the nutfa has passed 4 months. And this is the first occurrence of the soul in the body. Narrated Abdullah bin Masud radiallahu an, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the true and truly inspired, narrated to us, the creation of every one of you starts with the process of collecting the material for his body within 40 days and 40 nights in the womb of his mother. Then he becomes a clot of thick blood for a similar period, 40 days, and then he becomes like a piece of flesh for a similar period. Then an angel is sent to him by Allah, and the angel is ordered to write 4 things: his livelihood, his date of death, his deeds, and whether he will be wretched or a blessed one in the hereafter. And then the soul is breathed into him. And this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us in the Quran that He proportioned the nafs, and that He ingrained within mankind the ability to know right from wrong, immorality. And it is only with the presence of the soul that one can distinguish between right and wrong. Otherwise, the body alone knows nothing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has created the nafs and proportioned it and inspired in its evil and its righteousness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ash-Shams, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. And by the soul and the one who made it well, then inspired it with its instincts of evil and piety. So the nafs has the potential to accept fujur, evil, and taqwa, righteousness. Why? Because this is the test of life. Our soul is able to incline towards what is good and also towards evil, as this is our test. And so the human being is a composition of both the ruh and the body, as Allah SWT said in Surah Al-Sad. And so by the joining of the soul with the body, the nafs becomes evil or righteous. Otherwise the soul without the body has no evil in it of itself, as on its own it is pure. But when it joins the body, it has evil in it, and righteousness also. And certainly that person has ultimately succeeded who has purified his nafs by making it obey Allah. And that person who has destroyed his nafs and made it disobey Allah has ultimately failed. So although the soul is invisible, it is, however, because of it that there is life in the body. The stronger your connection with your Lord, the more satisfied and healthy your soul will be. But one must work for this level of health of the soul. But if you work only on your body and neglect the soul, you will be stunted in your growth and hence imperfect, as you remain unable to attain your full potential. So Allah SWT highlights and specifies the success of the muttaqi, the one who purified his soul and elevated it by obeying Allah, and He decreed failure for the shaqi, the one who suppressed his soul, concealed it, instilled it with corruption, and disgraced it, bringing it low by sinning. So obedience and piety magnify the nafs, making it grow by strengthening it and raising it such that so it becomes an honorable entity, large and pure and high, which means that all the positive abilities and qualities within a person become big and strong, even if he may be physically weak. But on the other hand, sin humiliates the nafs and disgraces it, makes it small, and so much so that at times, because of certain sins, a person begins to dislike himself and has low self-esteem, and at times even feels depressed, the feeling of being down. At times it's other people's words and mannerisms that does that to us, and yet at times it's our own actions, our own sins that take us there. So when you're feeling down, what is the cure? Dhikr, remembrance of Allah and obedience of Allah. And remember that the Quran is shifa, it is a cure. So nothing made the nafs smaller than the disobedience to Allah, and nothing elevated it, honored it, and raised it more than the obedience to Allah. And the body is like a mold in relation to the nafs. And so both the body and the soul get affected by each other. This is why it is said to the good soul at the time of death whilst leaving the body, O pure soul, come out to forgiveness and acceptance from God. And this is in Ahmad. Another aspect of the souls can be taken from what we learn from the following hadith. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anh reported Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, souls are troops collected together, and those who familiarize with each other in the heaven from where these come would have affinity with one another in the world, and those amongst them who opposed each other in the heaven would also be divergent in the world. And this is in Muslim. From this, scholars reflect that when Allah SWT created Adam alayhi salam, He brought out all the souls from him. All the souls were then placed in different groups. Some came together, some avoided each other, similar to that which occurs in the world. For example, sometimes it occurs that despite people being born in different places and perhaps different eras, there is somehow still such a strong connection between them. And at times there are some companions about whom when you read, you find them so inspiring, or at times some people you click with very well, as if you've known them forever. Yet at other times there are some people, despite having spent years with them, they still feel like strangers to you, and there really isn't much connection between yourselves. Scholars also reflect that a soul is distinguished from another soul by its specific qualities, and this difference is greater than how the body is distinguished from another body by its specific qualities. And the example they give is that two people could differ greatly in their skin color, their features, their physique, but the difference in their souls with respect to their good and bad qualities are far greater. Why? Because it is this difference that will either take one to paradise or take one to hell. Isn't it such that at times you sit with certain people and in their presence you feel your levels of Iman increase and you feel so much at ease? Whereas with other people you feel your levels of Iman dwindle and you feel heavily weighed down. Thus, scholars reflect that this is because different souls impact you differently. Hence, a believer and a disbeliever may both resemble each other in their physical traits in many ways, but their souls differ greatly. However, this does not mean that if you don't get along with people, that they necessarily are bad or you are bad. Not always. Rather, there is difference in people. Why? Because some of you are a test for others and they are a test for you. The question is, will you be patient and pleasing to your Lord with the package of people sent your way?